It's a very bizarre time from that perspective because the trend from 98 to 2006 was to have strong pipeline teams, that you could have these shared pipelines, and I was very much a part of that philosophy. My belief was, it's almost a Bauhaus approach. Don't question the pipeline. Make the pipeline so strong that you're free to be creative, go think about other things. What's been happening is two things. One was there was the trend in the games industry where the publishers went from strong central organizations to very hierarchical organizations to say, no, what, we're going to be independent now, have these networks of independent studios. And in doing that, they've defunded these central tools teams. So and if you take that coupled with the trend back towards proprietary editors, your game engines, I'm seeing less and less good central pipelines. And what's interesting about it is there's always, well, yeah, but I want to make my own tools for my own team. And my answer back is, that's totally fine, but do you want to make tools or do you want to make great games? And I think there's an efficiency from if you've got great tools, you've got the freedom to make great stuff. You don't have to make the tools all the time. You're figuring out what you want to make. So right now is an interesting time. I'm seeing I'm not aware of many great central tools teams anymore in the games business. They tend to be studio-based or product-based. And I think that's very unfortunate. I certainly think you're seeing more of a push to the first-party hardware people. I mean, the financial efforts of Sony and Microsoft and even Nintendo to make these more robust interface systems like Kinect or Move or the Wii, I think they're bearing more of the cost in a way that's kind of hidden. I think the R&D in the publisher side is getting harder and harder and harder because the financial model is just in a terrible place right now for the business. So, truthfully, I don't know. I'm looking forward, or I'm hoping that we're going to see more innovation happen in these smaller shops again, and it's going to make its way up to the platforms. So the question is maybe you start seeing somebody who's just really smart with this great Xbox Live Arcade idea, and that's where some innovation happens. We're seeing great innovation now in gameplay. So maybe I'm hoping that these guys are leaving the big publishers and going to sit the small things. We'll start doing more of this. The challenge there is venues for people sharing that information so the industry can adapt it better. So the advantages of 3D gaming versus 3D film are that all our games are always made in 3D, so we don't need to have a stereoscopic supervisor come back and make elements for 3D layouts. Everything was always in 3D. The disadvantage of that, though, is the cameras you use in games to make games interesting are never real-world cameras. You'd never have an 80-degree field of view when you're driving your car, but we do that in every racing game to make it look like it's faster and you have the information to navigate. And I find when you make those games 3D that I personally not seen many games where that 3D actually adds value to the experience. It just adds more information and I think convolutes the gameplay. And I also think that the fact is that I don't think 3D is a big deal for most consumers at home. And the other thing I think that's interesting is the hardcore gamers may want it, but the rest of the industry has been very clear they want less consumers. You look at Kinect, you look at Surface, you look at iPad, you look at all these things, the consumers want less obstacles between them and their entertainment. They want direct manipulation of their entertainment. The data is overwhelming. So while there are some hardcore geeks that want the 3D and they can have it, I think for a publisher, it's a very interesting problem is if you lower the barriers between you and your interaction and entertainment, of interacting with the entertainment, there's all these new experiences possible. And when you put more things between you like glasses or limited field of view, I'm not sure it adds to the experience. I don't think it does. So yesterday I did a lecture at the Business Symposium on critique, and the whole lecture was about what are the three emotions you're promising your user, and if the technology isn't serving those three emotions, then don't waste your money. I think that's the problem I think we as a games business have had for years, that because it's cool, we think it's got to go in the game, and I think that creates these muddied experiences. And more I'm telling people, figure out what those two or maybe three emotive experiences you want the customer to walk away feeling, and stop the technology if it doesn't serve that master. If not, it's just technology, and it's really cool, but it's not memorable. If you overwhelm your user, he doesn't remember a damn thing, and actually he may just feel stupid. And if you overwhelm him and he feels stupid, he's not buying your next game. So a lot of what I do is, while I'm dealing with some of the technology stuff we talk about, a lot of what I do more and more is saying, take months if you need to, and boil down what you really want that user to feel and experience. And then figure out what technology serves that master. Any other way is just silly. It's just foolish, it's expensive, it's risky, and it's going to blow up on you. It's like the talk last night was about story at one of the talks I went to. And it's about, no matter what technology you do in the film, if the story's no good, it doesn't matter. And it's the same thing with games, but worse, because the interaction, if you put technology in that interrupts my experience or detracts from my experience, I just feel dumb. And if I feel dumb, I don't want to give you my money anymore. So it's really interesting for me. My career, you're right, it's touching some differently in cool places. But what's really in the last 6 years has all come full circle, where I started as an industrial designer. And as an industrial designer, I always felt that you're making design to advance somebody's life or product or whatever, and using technology to serve that. And now I'm getting a lot of my work now is in this space about user experience, user interaction, and then making the technology and the graphics serve it. And that's really, really cool. And that's also, I think, what keeps me so interested in SIGGRAPH and the industry. Is every year you come back here and there's new graphics, new interaction techniques, and I don't know when I'm going to use it. It may take me 2 or 3 years, but it's always evolving, and it's really, really neat. So like some of the things we're working on now are, how to use telemetry to change the graphics of a game in front of the player and have them not see it, and it add to that experience. And that's the really cool stuff. And as long as it's serving the end user and that emotive experience, I think that's just the most fun I can ever have.